Get started.
Okay. Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non religious background. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. However, these Zoom meetings are helpful to parents all around the world, and they are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members who are not able to attend this meeting live can also watch. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. It's so good to be back together again. And thank you, Sandra, for being here.
Thank you, Irene. I'm so glad that we are doing this again at the start of the new year. This is so much fun. I'm going to just quickly read Sandra's bio and then pass it over to her. The fear of dying led Sandra Champlain on a 15-year journey to find evidence of the afterlife. She privately studied the worlds of psychic ability, mediumship, past life regression, near-death experiences, induced after-death communication, reincarnation, electronic voice phenomena, dowsing, and remote viewing. Her fears were rested when she determined that there is sufficient proof that we don't die. The death of her father caused Sandra to investigate the world of grief. She created the audio called How to Survive Grief to share with others her findings that helped her relieve her pain. The audio went viral within months, and listeners reported that it not only eased their pain, gave them hope, and prevented suicides. Courageously, she shares her real story in her book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death, now a #1 international bestseller. Sandra is a highly respected speaker, author, entrepreneur, and subject of the documentary by Emmy Award-winning Robert Lyon, We Don't Die, documenting a skeptic's discovery of life after death. And her website is wedon'tdie.com, which is very simple. Her book, again, is We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sandra Champlain. Welcome, Sandra.
Oh, I'm so excited. Can you guys feel it? Oh my goodness. I'm at my mom's house and she's south of Boston, Massachusetts. We're in Rhode Island, the little state of Rhode Island. And I've got butterflies in my belly because I get to be with you guys. So good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I know we got a global audience today and I'm just so grateful. You could be anywhere right now and you're here with us. So I'm going to give you everything I have got. Now, some of you know me and some of you have no idea who I am, and that's all fine. So I want to tell you a little bit about my history, a little bit about what Elizabeth said about grief, some reasons to believe in the afterlife, what my latest passions are, and also how we can connect with our loved ones. And then we'll do some Q&A. So if that sounds good, we'll get started. So first of all, I am the author of the book, We Don't Die. This is it. I'm showing it off. Yes, I am. You don't need to buy it though, because I am a giver. Elizabeth, I know, is going to include some things in the description, but I can't possibly do you guys justice in an hour to give you everything I know. So at that website, wedon'tdie.com, if you'd like to join my email list, it says you get a few free chapters of my book. The truth is, it's the entire book. I don't want anything to stop you from getting the information that I have. Now, the book is going on 10 years old, which is wild. And so between when I wrote it to now, I started what's called We Don't Die Radio. And it just started to be too much for me to work a day job and then also research the afterlife. So I figured I'd talk to people instead of reading a book, and I'd record these conversations. Well, over the past years, I now have 373 hours of episodes that they give you goosebumps. Afterlife is the main thing, but beneath everything afterlife that I talk about is to help those experiencing grief, because it's the worst thing, as you know, imaginable that you could ever feel. And I think a lot of people aren't looking for grief information. The afterlife is something that they are interested in. And so everything that I do, I slip in some information about grief and support to really help people have a better day. And just over a year ago, I got a call from the producer of Coast to Coast AM. You may know what that is. It's a paranormal show that happens in the wee hours. They talk about everything from UFOs and aliens to Bigfoot, right? Well, they also talk about the afterlife, and they really liked what I did. And so they asked if I'd have a podcast on their new channel. So my goodness gracious, we created what's called Shades of the Afterlife. And now we have 63 episodes. And they have commercials, whereas We Don't Die Radio doesn't. But to me, that's like the best of the best. And now there's over 100,000 people that listen to my words every week. And it's like crazy. So I'm very humble. It's not about me. It's about the message. I don't have any big ego, and all I want to do is share. So what Elizabeth said was right. My fear of dying led me on this path. And now looking back so many years later, we find that those fears and grief and all those things really have the possibility to get us on our spiritual journey. And they don't feel good. We don't like when they're happening. But I have no doubt that there's a team of unseen beings that are really helping us and supporting us. And from doing big things like helping parents heal, or writing a book, or just being a better person in life and being able to share yourself with another, I think all of our journeys make such a difference, because we know, having experienced a loss, having gone through grief, that we'd much rather talk to a person who's been there before than somebody who hasn't. So again, you don't have to do something big, but you just never know who you're going to be seated next to. Well, not that we travel on airplanes too much anymore, but seated next to on an airplane, or being in line at the grocery store. And I tell you, just one little thing can make a huge difference. So I'm really grateful for all these opportunities that I've gotten, and all I really want to do is share. So with my journey, yes, I gathered all kinds of reasons to believe in the afterlife. And I had so much fear about sharing them, though, because in those days, and even quite a bit now, when people are talking about the afterlife, some of them sound a little too airy fairy and out there and new age. And I really did not want to be associated with that. I didn't want to lose friends or family members, having them think I was one of those woo-woo out there people. So I kept my mouth shut. And it didn't take long before I had this tipping point where I would meet so many people who had experienced great loss. And I thought, oh my God, I'm doing the world a disservice if I don't share what's in my heart. So very slowly, I kind of started coming out with these little bits, and then my father got diagnosed with cancer, and he passed in 2010. And his last few months before he passed were just awful. I mean, awful. Anybody who's been there with a loved one, especially with cancer, I mean, it's very, very tough. And not only did I have that fear of losing him, even though I believed in the afterlife. I mean, it's one thing to believe, but then you're right there on the court with someone you love, and it's tough. And my siblings started fighting, and things became about money and what's going to happen when Dad dies, and it was just ugly. The good news is, before Dad passed, I had the courage to tell him about my afterlife investigations. And Dad was very religious. I mean, he spoke about Jesus every day. And so for me to come forward and say that I've taken mediumship courses and things like that was hard for me to do, but I just felt like I had to. And I'm not a medium demonstrating, but I keep my foot in the door taking courses. And when I was sitting talking to Dad, telling him my story, I got a vision in my mind of a yellow airplane. We call him a tail dragger. It was a Piper Cub that had black lettering. And I was flooded with this feeling of a man laughing, saying, John, which is my dad, I did get to take my toys with me. And I thought, this is weird. So I'm telling my dad the story. And I tell you, I just kept feeling this man with this airplane. So I said, Dad, I've got to tell you something. And, again, I'm thinking my dad's going to think I'm a lunatic. But I told him the story, what I said, what I see and what I feel. Well, he had a friend named Jim who had died of cancer a couple of years before. And Dad had been diagnosed with cancer 30 years prior to his death and was healed. But he would always tell people, you can fight this, you can beat it, because you can't take your toys with you. So Dad started to cry. He had a friend named Jim who had the yellow Piper Cub with the black lettering. And one of the biggest things Dad said is, Jim, you can't take your toys with you. And this guy through me was saying, John, I did get to take my toys with me. You can take your toys with you. So that was amazing. And so Dad made me promise I write a book and get this out there. And I didn't know what to do. I mean, other smart people write books. Who am I to write a book? But I made that promise. And, I like to keep promises. Well, Dad passed. My siblings and I fought. It was just brutal. I hit an all-time low, as depressed as one could be, not only losing my dad, but the relationships with those closest to me. And my siblings have children, so I couldn't see my nieces or nephews. It was really awful, getting blamed for, being greedy and all this stuff. And that, thankfully, led me to a journey to figure out what grief is. Not only why it has to hurt so bad, but why perfectly healthy, wonderful, loving human beings would turn into such monsters. So I found out our brain chemistry changes. I found out so many things. And I told you about my book where you can get it free. Chapter 10 is How to Survive Grief. And I won't go into all of it, but just know our brain chemistry changes. We lose a whole bunch of healthy neurotransmitters, and our brain and body is trying to survive and get back to some kind of a new normal. And with that, man, there's anger, there's memory loss, there's miscommunications, there's so much. And there are things that we can do to make ourselves or help ourselves get healthy and whole, things like sunlight and exercise and talking to friends and listening to music and being here with Helping Parents Heal, watching as many videos as you can, all those good things help restore us. Well, in time, I did come out with How to Survive Grief, and I got plenty of emails about how much it made a difference. And then I thought, I'm just going to be bold and write this book. And synchronicities kept happening. I met a publisher, had to have courage and tell him my story. And long story short, the book will be 10 years old in October. So that's mind blowing to me. And I'm really happy about it. And, I got an extra little push from the universe, if you want to call God, the universe, the unseen force, the spirit world, whomever it is. I had been working for almost 35 years as a chef, cooking for race car teams. That was my job, worked with my mom. And due to COVID, our business had come to an end. We could no longer work. Thankfully, we had some money in the bank, but I had to start over again. And what's been in my passion was the afterlife. And so my friends and I have started online psychic classes, medium classes. And the best thing that we do is every Sunday we have a free Sunday gathering. And Elizabeth's been one of our speakers on it. And it's a non-denominational service, I'll call it that, super inspiring about living life. But part of each and every one is a medium demonstration. So loved ones come through, messages come through, and that is completely free. Anybody can join in. It's hosted on Zoom, and it's wonderful. So the spirit world has made sure that I have earned enough that I can pay my mortgage, put food on the table, spend some quality time with mom. And the most important thing is I can really now take on full steam what my message is and share it with as many people as I can. So I'm not going to go through all the reasons I believe in the afterlife, but I'm just going to throw out some things. So don't do anything with them. Don't write them down. You can watch this later. I actually have a YouTube video, and if you type into YouTube Sandra Champlain 10 reasons, that video will go into depth about why I believe in all of these different things. But there are, as we know, mediums. There's evidential mediums, there's trance mediums, there's physical mediums, there's mediums who are artists that not only can see your loved one, but they're drawing a picture of them. Oh, that gives me goosebumps just thinking about that. One of them drew my dad. Amazing. There are near-death experiences. There are signs from our loved ones. There are deathbed visitations. There are dreams. Well, that's part of signs. There's what's called instrumental transcommunications, and those are things like pictures coming through and EVPs, electronic voice phenomena. There's something called induced after-death communication, which I will talk about in just a second, another fascinating thing. I don't talk too much about reincarnation, although it's a great field to study, but there is such polarity between the people that believe and the people that don't believe. Either way you look, it's a great reason to believe we go on. Some people think that people that claim to be reincarnated are just very highly mediumistic and they're tapping into a loved one. So then themselves may not be. And then, there's people that think, oh my gosh, my child has passed. Does it mean that they're reincarnated and they're somewhere else? Well, no. There's a lot of people that really say that the afterlife, we continue on, we continue being ourselves, and our loved ones are right there to greet us when we migrate, when we transition. So there's also been cases of people who claim they're reincarnated, yet through a medium, they're able to be contacted in the afterlife. So I don't want you to get hung up one way or the other about reincarnation, but 50 years ago, there were only 4 million people on this planet. If reincarnation was just happening over and over and over, there'd only still be 4 million people on this planet. And there's close to 8 billion, not million, 8 billion. So I think through all the science and investigations that I've done is that there can be part of us, maybe here and maybe part of it there. Our human brains cannot possibly get the vastness of the universe and how it all works. And I don't think we have to. So take what you want out of this conversation to comfort you. If it excites you, explore it. But don't ever believe everything somebody says. I mean, really pass it through your own filter, your own detector. What does your heart say about it? I know from everything that I've learned that the afterlife is very real. It's very similar to what we are experiencing here, the good stuff, so when we pass, we're going to see beautiful landscapes and flowers, and our people will be there. Our pets will even be there. There'll be a huge greeting committee, and it'll be very comfortable for us. What happens beyond that, who knows, but it'll be beautiful, and there's nothing to worry about. There's no hell. I think hell is right here. There's no punishment. I think we do our own assessment of our lives. I've interviewed so many people that have had near-death experiences, and they do say there's a life review, and you experience life from the perspective of other people. So if you told a few white lies, you're going to feel how it affected them. But then the bonus is the good deeds you do, you get to see the ripple effect that you had on people. And I think that's just amazing. And through science, it's been proven that we know that energy can never be destroyed. And 2 or more forms of energy can be lingering at the same place at the same time. So how it works, I don't know, this thing called Wi-Fi, the internet, but I have it all around me, as you guys do. The television signals, there's GPS signals, there's all these things in the invisible space. I love the term hereafter because our loved ones are here. It's just after their physical death, I guess, physical passing, we'll put it that way. But they're very, very real. And that's how mediums, and I think we're all mediums, I truly do. We just need to slow down enough to be able to connect with our loved ones. So some things that are going on that are just the latest things that excite me to no end. First of all, I know Sonia Rinaldi was on 2 days ago, and I know it was in Spanish. I looked at it, but I don't speak Spanish. But I recommend, whether you speak Spanish or not, that you review that video, because it is chock full of images that she has brought through of mostly children in the afterlife. She does different techniques. She works with steam and vapors. She works with static energy, and she'll point 3 or 4 movie projectors or little projectors into a central location and just have static, and she'll film it. And to her eye, she sees nothing. But when she goes through frame by frame, there are faces. And there are faces of loved ones, of people she's worked with, and groups that she's worked with. And most of the time, they're not like any picture that the person saw. And mainly she works with parents. I'm so proud that we've been following Sonia for the last couple of years. And a friend of mine has flown down to Brazil, and we will have a documentary out about her and her work coming out February 22nd this year. So stay tuned for that. So I'm super excited, but make sure you watch that video. Also, the Bigelow Institute. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but aerospace engineer Robert Bigelow came up with a contest, maybe it was a year ago or so, looking for evidence of the afterlife. And he decided to give $1 million away to people that had really good proof of the afterlife. So there was something like 2,000 essays that were sent in, and out of those, 30 of them were picked. And I haven't had time to read them all, but oh my gosh, are they intense. They deal with so many topics, and most of the people that wrote them, there's a PhD that follows their name on the essay. So they're very in-depth. It's so easy for people to say there's no evidence of the afterlife. But I tell you what, once you start reading, and many of these essays are very scientific in nature, and you start peeling back this onion, I think the mind that we have it can be quite negative at times, and it is quite skeptical at times, and that's a good thing. But our business here on earth, I think, is to forget who we really are. I think it's to buy into this feeling that we are only flesh and bone, and to forget the bigger picture, because while we're here, we can have so many experiences that we can't have in the same way when we go to the greater reality, when we go home. Yes, they say we can do everything we want to in the afterlife, things that we haven't yet done here, we can do there. But here, there's so many different elements. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, when somebody asks me what it is in my life that I'm most proud of, those things and who I became and what I did was always out of the hardest times. I've never seen myself like I was the champion for my dad before he passed. I didn't even know that Sandra existed. I didn't know this Sandra existed that is going to be sharing the afterlife. Like, I didn't have this. I'm a chef. Who am I to do this? Well, who am I not to, right? So looking back in our lives, again, the toughest times are what gives us the best soul growth. And I do think that's why we're here. I really do. So I want to talk to you a little bit about this induced after death communication. If you've been following what I've been doing on Facebook lately, there's a new movie that's come out called Living with Ghosts. And the film producer asked me if I wanted to do a free movie premiere for people that were signed up for my website. And I'm, sure. And what the film is about, it's follows the story of a woman and her daughters, and her husband is deceased, and also of the grandmother whose husband is deceased. And it there's a lot of people filmed talking about the pros and cons of afterlife communication, and is there really an afterlife, and things like that. And then where it goes to is this bereaved mother who has spent 19 years grieving, ends up taking up the daughter's recommendation to fly to Texas. And there was an experiment done with the University of North Texas in this induced after-death communication. And it's very similar to what is done with people experiencing PTSD. So the person feels their grief while a trained therapist, and it's only licensed trained therapists that can do this, will give them a series of either left, right, eye movements, like follow this pen, or will touch them on their hand. And for some reason, say someone's experiencing PTSD, when they're so deep in the memory and the pain, by doing this left, right motion, and the therapist talking them through this, it will dislodge the memory from the emotion. So you can see how that can be very important with people experiencing, such pain. Well, this experiment was done with people grieving. So this induced after-death communication is something that takes hours to do, and it is done for grief relief. It's not done to connect with loved ones, but that's the byproduct. Because what happens is it puts people in like almost a different reality, and they can see into the afterlife, and they can see their loved ones, and they can connect with their loved ones. And Dr. Alan Botkin was the first to do this when he was working with a Vietnam veteran, and he gave him a little too much of this left, right eye movements. And the person not only could see into the afterlife, but he could see those in the afterlife that belonged to Dr. Botkin. So it was evidence of the afterlife. So he decided to do a little bit more left, right to more people. And this became a new practice. And so it's global. It's not everywhere in the world yet, but it's really phenomenal. So this movie deals with that. And this Sunday, whether you watch the movie or not, the film producer and the people behind this after-death communication, induced after-death communication, are going to be with me on a free Q&A on Zoom. So it'll be on 4:00 Eastern time. And that's at wedon'tdie.com. You can sign up for that if you'd like to, but it's free. And if you sign up, I'll send you the replay, so I don't have to be there live. And then last night, I got an opportunity to interview Dr. Ann Clark, who does, she works with what's it called? Life Between Lives therapy is what it's called, and past life regressions. And again, no matter what you believe in it, she, with like similar to hypnosis, it puts people in a state where they can work out some of the trauma and some of the things that they're dealing with. And her daughter has passed. She passed in 2016, and she just wrote a book called Healing from Great Loss. But she was talking to me about this practice she does, this Life Between Lives therapy. And I said, because to me, it sounded very similar, like to this induced after-death communication. And I said, do loved ones show up? Can people see their loved ones when you take them to that space? And she says, almost 100% of the time. And I just got goosebumps thinking, oh, wow, So there's something going on there. And I'm super fascinated with the mind and how it all works, because it's one thing to think it's your imagination. It's a whole nother thing to see something so clearly that it's like happening in reality. And so I'll have more to come on that, but that's what is floating my boat right now. Another thing that's floating my boat is automatic writing. I had the profound privilege of interviewing Stephen Simon, who was the producer behind Robin Williams' movie, What Dreams May Come. And he was just a fantastic story about how the movie came about and everything. Well, Stephen's wife passed 3 years ago. And through doing journaling and feeling or remembering her love, all of a sudden, some of the words that started coming out of what he was writing, he's like, that's my wife. These aren't my words. This is her feelings. And so he co-wrote a book with her, and she's in the afterlife. What Dreams Have Come is the title of that. But he said, some of the thoughts that come through and the feelings, he says, it's like she's living in my body and so tightly connected with me. And I find that fascinating. And also in that movie I was telling you about, Living with Ghosts, that's also something the grandmother is doing. She feels the exact same way. So that's come up to me quite a bit lately, and I haven't started it myself, but I think there's something there, and there's something to be discovered, really. And what it takes is to relive the love of our loved one and relive the happy times and just start writing. And while in the beginning it could be 99% you and 1% them, the more we write and the more we just let go without any expectations, who knows what could be possible. The last thing that is floating my boat right now is these dreams and deathbed visitations. That was the last episode I did on Shades of the Afterlife. And of course, we know Betty White, the phenomenal comedian, has just passed, just a month short of her 100th birthday. And it just came out today, I think today, that her final thing she said just before she passed was Alan. Well, Alan was the name of her husband, who died many years before, and it was the love of her life. She had no fear of dying because she knew Alan would be there. And I just find it so special that the last word out of her mouth was his name, as if he is there bringing her across the veil. And one of these prize-winning essays from the Bigelow Institute was by Dr. Christopher Kerr, Kerr, who is a hospice physician. And he wrote the book, Death is But a Dream. And there's a YouTube channel that he's got. I think it's Buffalo Palliative Care. I got to check that out. But he's got people that are close to passing talking about their dreams and also their loved ones. And I believe before we go, if we're ill and we're close to physical passing, our loved ones are there with us, but they start having these really clear dreams. And of course, we've heard many, many stories just before someone passes. A smile goes on their face and they're reaching up, or they're calling someone's name. Or I had a friend whose dad said, "Oh, it's so beautiful over there." And he's talking about the people that he sees, even people that no one told him they were, and they're there and he sees them and they were passed. So I'm really fascinated by this. One of the stories is very sweet. There was a man who had cancer, and his wife or lady friend tells the story that he wasn't much of a cook, but he loved to cook his homemade spaghetti sauce. Like, he loved it. But for their whole relationship, he said, "I just can't make it how my grandmother made it. Like, there's something missing. There's something missing." And just before he passed, I mean, he was still well enough, but before he passed, he had this dream, and his grandmother came and told him the missing ingredient was a tablespoon of sugar. And he came up from that dream, and those dreams are so vivid. And he wanted to make that spaghetti sauce. And so the wife helped him make it, and it was perfect. So she gave him the recipe. And then not too long ago, a gentleman told me that he woke up from a dream, and he was healthy and well. So this wasn't before the end of his life, but just to show that our loved ones can come to us in our dreams. He had this recurring dream that his father was telling him that he had $5,000 in his top drawer before he died. Like, this guy had to get this money. So he's just like, I don't know why I keep having this dream. Well, the wife, smart lady she is, she says, "Well, why don't you check the drawer?" So they went to the dad's house, and in the top drawer, top dresser drawer, it was loaded with magazines, and the magazine on the bottom had a white envelope that had $5,000 in cash in it. So that is communication. Absolutely. So studying dreams and these visitations before we pass is another great way to know that the afterlife is real. And nobody passes alone. You know, our loved ones are with us now, but we're too busy. We can't feel them, or sometimes we can, but for the most part, you know, we're here to live our life. They don't want to upset the apple cart. They don't want to get too much involved, but they don't want us to grieve. Now, you can't turn off grief. The only way to the other side of grief is through it. But as you guys know, when you're part of a community and you understand it and you can talk about it, it makes the road a little bit brighter. It does. It absolutely does. But they're with us. They're with us. And so I think the best way really to connect with them, because we all want signs, don't we? We do. And I've heard from so many sources that when we pass, there's education that continues, our lives continue, and their life there doesn't have time. And that's really a hard concept for us to get our heads around, because here we have time, but for them, it could be a blink of an eye and we're all going to be together again. For us, it could be 30 years. So they have the right to get involved or not get involved, give us signs, not give us signs. But unfortunately, I think they are trying, but I think a lot of us are just so busy. It takes a quiet mind. It takes slowing down. So it's no doubt they come in sometimes through our dreams, or we'll think about them when we wake up in the morning and we're in that kind of in between sleep and awake state, or just before we go to bed at night. This has been happening to me lately. Just before I fall asleep, it's like Dad's face is there. It's like, okay, you're here. All right. You know, hi, Dad. We human beings want to blow this off as that's our imagination. Well, here's how they communicate. It's through our imagination. Any psychic, any medium, the spirit people are using their memories and their imagination and putting those images and feelings in them. They share them, and that's how an evidential reading is done. Far too often we say, oh, God, I think I just smelled Mom's cologne. My imagination. Grammy made the best oatmeal raisin cookies. I just think I smelled them. Oh, just my imagination. No, those are signs. So really just trust. Anytime we can have a picture of our loved one, keep, which I'm sure you are, keep the relationship alive, talking to them. They will do everything they can. Learn in the halls of knowledge how to communicate with us. Now, my grandmother died 1 week before her 91st birthday. I do not think Grammy is going to learn how to do electronic voice phenomena. I just don't think she is. They didn't have electronics in our day growing up. However, when I close my eyes and quiet down and start feeling a time that Grammy and I were together, I can feel her hand on mine. I can feel her skin. She had really long fingernails. I can feel my fingers on her fingernails. And I just trust and say, hi, Grammy. Just trust that she's there. I think it is so vitally important to, sometimes we really have to talk ourselves into it, but I used to get angry when somebody would say the gift of grief, because I'm thinking there's no gift in grief. Grief is the worst thing possible. But if we can say, perhaps there's a big spiritual adventure to be had, and my life is for a reason. I know I'm going to hurt right now. My loved one is there. But be open to the possibility that there really is more to you than meets the eye, that you are a divine soul, that you have incredible intuition and powers now, and that some point, you're going to be looking back and saying, because of this awful thing that happened in my life, I was able to learn this. And you always hear it, if you can only help one person, that's huge. But you just never know the difference that you can have in somebody else's life. You never know when somebody's at the end of their rope and your smile or just a kind word is just what they needed. So forgive yourself for anything you think you should have done or shouldn't have done in the past. We human beings do the best job we can with what we have. Know that you're in the perfect place right now, that you're loved, you're supported. You've got the Helping Parents Heal family, of course, and there is just an unseen world of love really cheering you on. And someday, but not too soon, we'll all close our eyes for that last time. And when we open them, man, will we be surprised at the greeting committee and how much love just floods in. So with that, I think that's all I want to say, because I know we need time for Q&A.
Oh my gosh, Sandra, it's been so wonderful listening to you. And I just want to say, first of all, the Shades of the Afterlife sounds fabulous. So I hope that everyone will find that on Coast to Coast Radio then. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can go to Apple Music. You can go to iHeart.com. It's also on iHeartRadio. Just type in Shades of the Afterlife. Any podcast channel has it.
So you've interviewed Dr. Ann Clark, who we've had several times here as well. And I just want to let everybody know that we have YouTube videos of Dr. Ann Clark as well. She's amazing about past life regressions, obviously, as well as Dr. Christopher Kerr, who we absolutely adore. Oh my goodness gracious. And his documentary is amazing, as you were saying. I think that all of these doctors who are performing these, well, he's interviewing people who have passed, who have come back, and they're telling him about what it's like over there. It's pretty amazing, and it's always uplifting. But I wanted to just tell you that we have people writing such beautiful things about you in the chat box. Roseanne, who is one of our affiliate leaders and who also wrote her own book called Believe about her son Lee. She wrote, "It's because of Sandra and being at the We Don't Die conference that I learned to speak my truth. I am so grateful to you and I love you."
Bless you,
and I
Roseanne.
just, I know that there are so many people who feel that way. Anna Molina is on here and she's excited about having you talk about Dr. Sonia Rinaldi, who was on her show 2 nights ago. I wanted to say that Dr. Rinaldi, that Sonia also came and spoke to us in English. So we have a video through our group, Helping Parents Heal, Connecting with Our Loved Ones, in English. So if anyone wants to check that out, that same slideshow is in English, so you don't have to translate it yourselves. But we have some questions and I would love to ask you a few of them if possible.
Absolutely.
One of them is from Mariah, and she is saying, "We are fans of We Don't Die Radio and know Carrie and Phil from the We Don't Die Radio are great mediums, but we have also heard from Sandra's about her own truly excellent evidential mediumship skills and her training in the UK, which was fantastic. So we wanted to ask if it would be possible that in her busy schedule, you could make a little room to consider mediumship reading, if not right now, maybe as a plan for later yourself as well. That would be amazing. And thank you for all of the awesome work that you do, Sandra. So I just want to point that out, that yes, you have trained as a medium. Is that correct, at Arthur Findlay or?
Yes, I have taken a couple of 1-week courses. I've taken a couple of weekend courses, and then we do a Thursday course online with Carrie and Phil. There's something interesting about mediumship. Fear and being a medium can't be in the same room together. You really have to set aside any of the thoughts, oh, this isn't going to work, to be confident and step up as a medium. So in the classroom setting, I am okay with exploring it. I definitely am. One-on-one, I'm not quite there yet, because I know people have experienced some severe things and I really want to be able to help. And then that busy mind comes in and overshadows that clear channel. So it is on the horizon for me. I have been told by many mediums that my mediumship job right now is to get to as many people as I can through sharing others, because I've got a really big mouth and I've got a really big platform. And yesterday at 1 a.m., I was on Coast to Coast AM talking to 8 million people just for 3 minutes. And every time I speak, I power pack something in there. I'm very strategic, because if I can get to anyone who's experienced loss, I'm going to. So while it is definitely on the table for me to go down that route, I think the spirit world right now is using me to get to the biggest audience I can, to share good people, to share helping parents heal. So that's how I'm behaving as a medium right now. But I am fascinated by it. And so, yes.
You do a fabulous job at what you do, and you have
Thanks.
such a beautiful voice. So it's understandable that you would be the megaphone for all of our loved ones in the afterlife, letting us know that they're okay and that they love us. Teresa is saying our life review is with no judgment. So she's asking a question. We won't feel horrible over hurts that we've caused others, or will we? Could you maybe say a little bit about that and maybe reassure people about that life review?
Yeah. Absolutely. We are the only person that looks at our own lives, and we do it from training and development. So it's not a case, it's almost like if you can pull yourself out of the emotion of it and you can see from your soul, was that the best move to do at that point? Because I really do believe each one of us in the moment, I hate to say this, but even when we're young and say we lie or steal a lollipop or something, I don't think we're bad people. I just don't think we've learned yet. We do what we can at the time, but we get to see how that action influenced everything else. So you look at your own life for how far you've gotten and the difference that you've made. So don't feel that you're going to feel bad. You're, going to get in trouble. You're going to wallow in the afterlife in misery. No, 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 no. It's not that. But you're going to see like how well you played your cards out that you were dealt on earth, and what you've learned from it. So fear not, my friend. It is like training and development. But the good news is you do get to experience the difference you made. So this feeling that people have told me who've had the near-death experience is this unconditional love. It's like the best love you've ever felt times a billion. They can't even describe it. So, your light will shine.
Beautiful way of describing it. And I think that it's important for everybody to understand that this is school for us. And when we get over there, it's home. So whatever we do that is not exactly what we would have wanted to later on, it's okay, because we're learning every single day and we do better the next day. So Jennifer is asking, my daughter was dedicating songs to us a few months before her passing. Do you think that they know that they're going to pass? What's your opinion on that, Sandra?
I don't know. I think that the mind doesn't know. There could be something within the soul that does, because I too have heard some really interesting stories of some of the actions people take, but it might be like an unconscious thing to do that. It may be the soul speaking. I don't necessarily buy into that there's a soul plan when everybody's going to go. I don't. I think there are accidents. I think there are illnesses that come in and things like that. So, I don't, for me, buy into, that sort of thing. But I do think that there could be wisdom of the soul that knows, and maybe knows the bigger picture, and some of these beautiful creative things that come out that you do wonder, did they know? I don't think on a conscious level they did, but maybe the soul was speaking. And we all have these really powerful, wise souls within us. And when I talked about automatic writing, even if you're not talking to your loved one, when you really allow yourself to just to write and talk to your soul, you'll find you answer your own questions, or your soul does.
That's beautiful. Yes, actually, we have an affiliate group of Helping Parents Heal that's run by Mary Burton and Tava Wilson, as well as Donna Burton, and they hold classes on automatic writing. And
Very good.
Mary wrote a book about it, and it's so successful in terms of allowing parents to be happy when they're able to actually get this communication from their kids. I think that the healing that takes place is exponential when you're able to actually be communicating that way. And I think that it's something that's really open to all of us. I think you're right. I think dream visits don't come all the time, and people are frustrated when they don't get them. There are lots of other ways of communicating that don't necessarily always happen to us. But being able to sit quietly and channel writing from our loved ones, and especially from our kids, is something that we can all do. So that's beautiful that you said that. Let's see, Jody is saying, I struggle with knowing what becomes of someone in the afterlife who has struggled with mental health issues on Earth or with dementia. What happens to their cognition when they reach the other side? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, it's so happy. This is the happiest news ever. We are all perfect, whole, and complete. We are our favorite ages. If we have been in a wheelchair all of our life, we are walking. If we have any kind of anything in our mind, we are healthy, we are whole, we are clear. And I told you about the spirit artist that drew my dad. You know, my dad died 74 years old, really pale and gaunt with all these tubes in him, very little hair. And the picture she drew was very similar to what he looked like in the Air Force in his mid-20s. And this lady said that was his favorite age. That's how he's going to show himself. I'm like, oh. And dad actually came through one of Sonia and all these pictures. She did not have any pictures of my dad. And I was secretly talking to my dad saying, if you can go to Brazil and if you can get your face on one of her experiments. And she sent a supply of unknown people. And one of them absolutely was my dad. And he looked very close to a picture that I have of him being in the Air Force.
It was in her presentation 2 nights ago, as a matter of fact. The picture.
Oh,
So if anybody wants to see Sandra's dad, please check out Anna Molina's presentation with Sonia. It's really
oh,
and I
makes me
want to
happy.
just tell you some other things people are saying about you. Iris is saying, I feel like Sandra is a friend in some of my hardest times. If I'm struggling, I put on one of her podcasts and it always lifts and gives me hope. Thank you, Sandra.
Thank
And
you.
then,
Thank you, Iris.
and then also Anna, who actually was the host the other night, says, when I listen to your podcast, I have a smile at the end because it transports me to a space of healing. Thank you. And I want to be sure before we end this, that everyone understands how to connect with you and all of this healing work that you do. First of all, you did say, you talked about the Sunday show that you have with live mediums, which is just amazing. And so Carrie and Phil are on there every single Sunday, and anyone who wants to is invited to attend. Is that correct?
Yes. My home base, if you just remember, wedon'tdie.com. Don't put the apostrophe in, but wedon'tdie.com. And once you're there, there's a page, a tab at the top that says Sunday gatherings. And the link for the upcoming one is always there. And then all the links for all the replays are there also. So if you need some inspiration and feel good, just watch some of the replays. There's also a button there that says radio shows. And you can click on the Shades of the Afterlife picture. That'll take you over to iHeartRadio. And you can scroll down and then you can see all 373 episodes. You can click on them and you can play them. There's a calendar there so you can see what's coming up, what we're doing. Everything's online. We're not going to do any live events for a while, just because I want to make sure that the earth is cleaned up enough for people to travel. And plus I'm taking care of my mom and this is where I need to be. But there's a page there that says store. And that's everything upcoming. Also, free stuff is there too. So you can click on Sunday Gathering, you can register there. You can click on that Q&A with those, the people from the movie that's coming up on Sunday. There's a tab there. You can click on that and register for that. Of course, if you want to join us from one of our classes, you're welcome to do that. There's a cost to them. We try to make them reasonable. Everything's got a money back guarantee. The last thing we want to do is have anybody feel cheated, but they're great communities to be in. We have a Facebook group and you can join that, and you can watch the movie. There's a documentary that's about me and how I got the start in it. And it was filmed, I think, about 8 years ago. So I've learned so much more, but there's a couple of bonuses in with that. And there's more things that I can't remember on that site, but there's a lot there. And that's the home base. That's the place to check it all out. And my email is sandrachamplain@gmail.com. So you can always write to me if there's any confusion, and I will get you wherever you need to be.
Well, that's an easy one to remember. And there are so many people saying so many wonderful things. I think that a lot of people in our group are familiar with you and who and have spent time listening to your podcast. Sabina is saying, I walk an hour every day with one of Sandra's podcast episodes, which is just wonderful, as well as thanking you for being here and for talking to us. I think that it's important it's interesting because Sabina is also saying soul plans and reincarnation do not resonate with me either yet. So glad she is validating that. Again, as Sandra said, you should always, no matter who you're listening to, take whatever resonates with you and leave the rest behind. And I think that that's the way that everyone is able to move forward the easiest, because if you get stuck on something and you think to yourself, I can't accept this, you're not going to keep going forward. But if you take what does resonate with you and keep that in your toolbox, it will be able to allow you to move forward and heal. So anyway, we have other questions though, and I want to just get one last question. There's a question on here and I'm trying to find it, and I'm sorry, but I haven't. I was wondering about your dad, and so the picture that Sonia has of him, this was when he was in the Army, when he was much younger. Is that correct?
He was in the Air Force.
In the Air Force. Okay. And so I wanted to go back to the plane, the Piper, yellow with black lettering. I think that that's evidence that you are definitely a medium, but I think that all of us are mediums. And that's what I wanted to just let everybody know.
Yes, we are.
Not just Sandra, it's not just Carrie and Phil, it's not just the providers that we have on Helping Parents Heal. All of us are mediums, and all of us are capable of communicating with our loved ones in spirit. So I think that it's so exciting that you've taken these classes. I think that the more classes that we take, the better we will get. But and we don't have to do it as a professional medium.
No, can I
do that?
Just a story I want to share with you guys. Yeah. So we are all mediums, just like playing the piano. Some people are naturally gifted, and then some people really have to practice, right? Well, we all have a soul, and we're all entitled to use it to the best of its abilities. Some people naturally can look at you and pick up on your loved ones and things, and others have to work at it. So we have a Wednesday psychic class that teaches people how to use that power of your soul. And you go into breakout rooms. We've all done breakout rooms now, being here on Zoom, and you work with people, even if they're on the other side of the country. And the deal is, whatever comes into your imagination and your feelings, because that's how your soul works, through feelings, you put on loudspeaker, you verbalize. And suddenly these things you think your imagination, you realize they are not. The other person saying, absolutely, that's true. And then once you practice that mediumship class, we do that on Thursdays. It's just having the intention to work with someone in the spirit world, not the soul in front. And there are students that have been with us couple months or since COVID hit and we started doing these online, and people on all different abilities are bringing through loved ones. It is mind-blowing. And can you imagine how it would feel? And I know people have done this, to think it's your imagination and you're giving accurate information about someone's loved one. You never need to be a medium, but there is something so comforting and there's something so awesome to realize that you are a soul having a human experience. I think it helps all of us. I don't want to say take more chances in a dangerous way, but live a little bit more courageously, go after our dreams. Don't sweat the small stuff. Know that it's all education. Know that no matter what age you are, you're perfectly where you need to be right now. So I think knowing that there's an afterlife, yes, it helps with grieving, but I think it also helps us live a better life. And we are all mediums. We are all very powerful souls.
That is absolutely beautiful. Yes, knowing that there is an afterlife helps us with grieving, helps us with being able to move through this. But even more importantly, it helps us with living and being a better person and being able to help others and to be able to reach a hand back and help others forward. And I just think that that's something that's so important about this journey. And this journey is all about love. And you are one of the shining examples of this. And I just want to read one more thing. This is from Nancy. She's one of our caring listeners. And she says, Sandra, you are at the forefront of so many important projects, which is true. Thank you for your beautiful soul and all you share with the world. I've been bugging my boys in spirit to show up in Sonia's images and sincerely believe that they will. So far, they have been very compliant. So anyway, I think that's adorable. I think it's so exciting that you have devoted so much time and energy to allowing all of us to know that we do not die, which is just such a beautiful thing to know. Thank you so much for being here this evening. Did you have any other information that you wanted to let people know, or we'll certainly put it in on the YouTube video as well. But
thanks. The only thing I want to leave everybody with is just be yourself. You know, I spent most of my life thinking I wasn't good enough, not pretty enough, not thin enough, not this enough. And when I started following my passion and just started sharing, not only do you get that you're okay, but you're one of a kind. Do what's in your heart. You're here for a reason. I mean, you can change. There's no predestined thing you have to do, but follow your passion and just be yourself. And I tell you what, you are one magnificent human being. And try not to listen to that little negative voice, but just when you can take an opportunity to make a difference for another, and just let your hair down, so to speak, and have a good laugh or have a good cry, but just be you. And so now it feels really good because I can just be me. And here I am being me for you. So you guys just be you for the people in your life.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This was
Beautiful.
absolutely wonderful. And we truly appreciate you presenting this evening. Again, it was the first big presentation of the year. So it's wonderful to spend it with you, Sandra. And thank you again. And we always ask everyone to unmute themselves and say thank you and goodbye. So if you guys would like
Thank
to.
you, Sandra. What a great night.
So much.
So much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Everybody.
Thank you, Sandra.
Everybody.
Love
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you, Sandra.
Bye.
Thank you.